Hello, and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today I want to do part 2 of the case of the Queen and Richard Sr. If you haven't watched part 1, you may find that useful before you watch this one. However, just as a really brief recap, Constable Sr. is a police officer. He's been found guilty now of a number of corruption-related offenses. The way this comes to be is that he gets a new partner, and that new partner is actually an undercover cop who's been assigned to monitor him. That cop has put wiretaps in his work vehicle, his personal vehicle, in his phone, and also Constable Sr. has had a major career breakthrough. He's actually managed to get a confidential informant who's providing him with a whole lot of information that's leading to major drug busts and major cash busts, and is also a complete work of fiction. That confidential informant is actually another undercover operator who is, again, investigating Constable Sr. So right now, his entire career is basically completely fictional, and all of these major successes that he's being congratulated for, and, they're putting into his permanent, personnel file, they aren't actually true. They never happened. So Constable Sr. is living in this weird kind of fictional world that exists to investigate him. Let's continue on. Right now, Undercover 1 has been trying to convince him to get him some steroids, and not with a whole lot of success. But let's dive in and see what's going on here. So on August 1st and 2nd, 2018, Undercover 1 and Constable Sr. exchanged text messages. On August 1st, Constable Sr. stated that he was still missing data on his phone. However, he seemed to resolve some of the problem during the discussion by updating his application. He was also complaining about the battery life. And if you remember, the reason why he's complaining about the battery life is that his phone has been hijacked. He thought he was getting it encrypted. He was actually getting monitoring software installed on it. So the reason why the battery keeps draining is that this is now a listening device intended to spy on him, which is, of course, draining the battery much faster than expected. UC1 texted him a picture of a chicken breast to inform him that he was eating healthy. And that's, again, because UC1, the undercover cop who is his partner, had been asking him for steroids, and Constable Sr. had said, "No, I'm not getting you any steroids. You should instead live healthier, improve your diet, eat more protein, work out harder, and that's how you'll get the gains you're looking for." UC1 sent Constable Sr. a picture of a protein container to demonstrate that he was committed to his diet, supplements, and the advice he had given to him. And so now we've got a brief discussion, which I'm skipping over here, but with Constable Sr. and Henry, that is the fake informant. And he basically says that, cash, no product on the last seizure. In the later afternoon on August 9th, 2018, Undercover 1 and Constable Sr. interacted at 5 Corps. UC1 agreed in his testimony that, up to that point, he had not observed any misconduct on the part of Constable Sr., despite the passing of several weeks and many hours of investigation. Later that evening, the two of them met up with a friend of Constable Sr.'s at Joey's. UC1 agreed that this was an example of him inserting himself into the life of Constable Sr. So he's trying to be a friend, and this is a several weeks long investigation. You've got to think of just how many dollars does it take to have an undercover cop doing all this stuff. They've spent a lot of money on this point on trying to get Constable Sr. to do something wrong, and no luck. So continuing on, there's another discussion with Henry over WhatsApp, which talks about 2 to 4 kilos of cocaine. The Constable Sr. advised Undercover 1 of this upcoming coke deal and suggested that UC1 contact Detective Sergeant Bedford to let him know what was going to happen. During the same meeting, UC1 took a call from his handler, Detective Ladouceur. UC1 testified that the objective from his handler was to start showing a different side of himself, a criminal side. Now, he's been asking Constable Sr. for steroids for a while, and I guess that's not a criminal side, but nobody in this story seems to find it unusual that police officers want steroids and are, no steroid guys. You would think that would have been enough, but no, that is apparently just part of ordinary activities for all of these people. And so that's really concerning in all of this. The real cavalier attitude shown from everybody that ends up sort of in this interaction about steroids. It might say something about the police force. I can't say for certain, but you can make your own calls on that. During the call, UC1 made sure that Constable Senior heard him say, "Give me the 2,000 now and I'll take the 1,000 later." UC1 testified that he dropped high-value numbers to show his criminality and the suggestion that he was dirty. He attempted to make the call sound shady. UC1 stated that he made these references to see if Constable Senior asked about it. However, Constable Senior did not ask, and UC1 did not know if Constable Senior heard his conversation. So now they're trying to turn this relationship a little bit and trying to add some additional temptation here. All right, so skipping ahead a little bit here. On August 14th, 2018, the objective for UC1 was to give Constable Senior a battery pack for his phone as he was still having issues, and to continue to build rapport with him. You wouldn't want his phone to run out of battery and, the listening device stops, or worse, he decides that his phone is broken and replaces the phone. But UC1 agreed in cross-examination that up until August 14th, approximately 9 weeks into the investigation, he had not observed any evidence of illegal behavior on the part of Constable Senior. So they've been at this for more than 2 months and nothing, but they're not done. You might think 2 months is enough time to say, let's wrap this up. Especially keep in mind that this original start of this investigation was over. They thought he had improperly accessed some computer systems. The two officers were not partnered up that day. They did meet for breakfast, where UC1 gave Constable Senior the battery pack. They then went to Woodbine and Steeles to do traffic enforcement with another officer. While doing traffic enforcement, UC1 stated that Constable Senior's demeanor was different. When asked if everything was okay, Constable Senior explained that he was having an extramarital affair with Sherry Wafer and that his wife found out. Constable Senior then provided a great deal of information to UC1 about Sherry Wafer and their relationship, including her background, how they met at the gym months previously, problems she had been having with her ex, and that her mother was a drug dealer who moved drugs across the GTA. Constable Senior told him that he wanted to call CES to fuck over Sherry Wafer. Constable Senior also expressed that he wanted to do an intelligence report on Miss Wafer. UC1 offered to help Constable Senior document the information. So there's a lot going on here, isn't there? He's in a relationship, he's aware of a drug dealer, and he's a cop, and that apparently was not a big deal to him. But that also was not enough for UC1 to say, hey, we've got this guy, we've got enough to get him kicked off the force. You'd think that would have been enough, but apparently not. He's offering to now help involve him in terms of basically screwing over his ex. So that might tell you, that's really concerning that he's now going to use his role as a police officer to go after his ex. Meanwhile, on August 14th, 2018 at 2:59 p.m., Detective Sergeant Bedford sent Sergeant Boris, Constable Senior, and UC1 an email describing a fictional seizure at 100 Nexus Road in Brampton of a loaded .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun and 6 rounds of ammunition, 1 kilogram of cocaine, and 1 kilogram of cutting agent. The email stated in part, "Once again, I wanted to congratulate your officers on the exemplary work they're doing. Please continue to provide us with any information that the CHS, that's Henry, the confidential human source, is providing." Sergeant Boris responded on the same day, acknowledging the fine work of UC1 and Richard yielding fruitful results. UC1 agreed that positive reinforcement for work done felt good. So, again, this is a major, coup in his career, and it's complete fiction. Right now, he's had a number of these, and they're all fake. But a kilogram of cocaine is not a small bust. That's a big deal. So saying, hey, we got a kilo of cocaine and a loaded handgun, that's a big thing for Constable Senior. On that same day, UC1 arrived at the station at 3:42 p.m. He met Constable Senior there. The interaction with Constable Senior that followed was captured on device 1, and here's a timestamp. Constable Senior told UC1 more information about Sherry Wafer, her family, and their involvement with drugs. Constable Senior stated that he saw pounds of weed in her house one time, and that she had at least a pound in her house presently. Constable Senior stated that Miss Wafer threatened to come to the station and talk against him. The following recorded exchange took place. UC1: "Why don't you fucking drop a dime on her, bro?" I'm going to drop a dime on her right effing now. That's what I'm saying. I don't want YouTube to get annoyed at me if I swear too much in this. You're not typing them now, are you? No, on Thursday. Sit down and do it Thursday. Yeah. Okay, so Thursday we got to put it all together, right? It's, you know what I mean? Sounds like you don't. You know what I mean? Put it all together. Yeah. And then we'll send it up. I don't think we should send it. We'll send it right to Bedford. Yeah. I trust Doug, so we'll send it right up to him. Yeah. Yeah, think about all that. Like, you know what I mean? It's not going to whistleblowing time. That's what I say. F it. Yeah. So in this interaction, all we hear Constable Senior saying is basically, yeah. There's not a whole lot of him leading the conversation here. UC1 appears to be the one kind of guiding this conversation. But does she got dirt on you? Like what? I'm asking you. I'm just wondering effing if we do the effing report. Yeah. I don't want any effing. What's she going to say? What can she tell you? I don't do drugs. Perfect. That's it. Anything that she could possibly put it this way. If she even tried to implicate me in some shit, she'd be implicated too. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for example, if I'm saying that you smoke weed, you're getting the weed from. Yeah, okay, I see. You're the trafficker. I'm just the simple possession. Not saying I did smoke weed. I get it, but I'm saying as an example. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the most she got me was like a couple of vials of GH, and that was it, and that's all, and that's not even effing illegal. Possession, though, no. Who gives a fuck, buddy? Everybody. That's why I said I had no contact anyone. You such an ass. Well, this is my point. She could have. If I'm still with her, then I could probably maybe. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying. I got nothing. Hey, okay. I know you're burning down the house, but hey, do you mind? Yeah. Throw in an order for a buddy of mine. Yeah. So I'm like, whatever. Okay, we'll do it on Thursday. It's always fun reading transcripts because conversational style really does not look like normal written style, and it's really hard to repeat these conversations in a way that sounds like a conversation, just because once you just transcribe all of the and yeah, it ends up with a weird conversation, but that's how people talk. So at the end of the recording, UC1 was leaving the station. In cross-examination, UC1 confirmed that he never told Constable Senior that a police officer could not be a confidential informant. Of course he didn't. He's not trying to help Constable Senior. He's trying to get him in trouble. He also confirmed that he never told Constable Senior that there would need to be a confidential informant background form, but he stated, I think he knew from the first one. Did he, though? Because he's been relying on UC1 heavily for help and for guidance. He's not anything like an expert here. UC1 stated that he knew the source of the wafer information was Constable Senior, and that Constable Senior did not want his involvement known. According to UC1, if he himself wanted to share this type of information, he would send it in an email and document it in his notes. But that's not what he's telling Constable Senior to do. He's telling him to send this, much more secretively. Later that day, the two officers exchanged some text messages between 5:01 p.m. and 5:03 p.m. Brother, if you need anything, let me know. I can run down to see you. She will come to the station for sure. Thanks. Appreciate it. UC1, even if it's just a hug, I've been there. Keep this shit on the down low. I have a few ideas to insulate you. That's UC1 saying he's got a few ideas to insulate him. Knowing, of course, that he can't be insulated. That's not an option. He's still telling him, I've got these ideas. So Richard Sr., okay, cool. Thanks again. In his examination in chief, UC1 explained that by a few ideas, he meant in regard to confidentiality for Constable Senior in providing information on the intelligence report. He did not provide Constable Senior with any ideas at that time. In cross-examination, UC1 explained that this intelligence report would not have been disclosed to Sherry Wafer. UC1 also explained that Constable Senior did not need to bring the information forward. UC1 never told Constable Senior that this information could not be submitted on an intelligence report without a source. UC1 testified that, at this time, there was no allegation that Constable Senior was falsifying confidential informant reports. So, complicated scenario here. Let's see where this goes. On the afternoon of August 15th, 2018, there were some text messages exchanged between UC1 and Constable Senior. Specifically, Richard Sr., brother, I want to bring the hammer. I am super pissed. UC1, let's bring the rain. Weird turn of phrase, but okay. On August 16th, 2018, the objective for UC1 was to go to the office and complete the report on the information that they'd talked about in relation to Sherry Wafer. Prior to seeing each other in person, they exchanged some text messages in the morning. UC1, can you please start that intel report? Yes. Which intelligence report is left to do? The last one? With the coke and gun? UC1, those are done. I'm talking about the 411 you got with that chick. So UC1 does not want to let this go. He wants to push this issue, wants to make it happen. Okay, cool, on it. UC1 says, Rod should be there by 9:30. Email them to me when you're done. I'm going to see if we can work it. Richard Sr. says, okay. I'm feeling bad about sending your mom to jail. Fuck it. UC1 says, lol. Shut the fuck up. You got hosed. He says, true, good point. UC1 says, lol. Still feel bad. Suck it up. Survival, bruv. Lol. I'm a fucking mercenary on my way. We have shit to discuss on the way back. So UC1, once again, is trying to encourage him, trying to make sure he doesn't back out, because there's some discussion there about, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this. And UC1 is like, no, you got to do this. That morning, Constable Senior drafted an intelligence report in relation to his ex-intimate partner, Sherry Wafer. So just as he was told to do, and her family members being involved in the drug world. At 9:22 a.m., Constable Senior sent an email to UC1 with the subject line, YRP 050A Intelligence Report. The attachment to the email was an intelligence report form. The email stated, here's a rough draft of the intel report, followed by other details. The email stated in part, in the month of July 2018, Constable Senior and UC1 received information from a confidential human source regarding illegal drugs located within York Region. The confidential human source wishes to remain anonymous and does not wish to testify in judicial proceedings. In the background section of the form, it stated the confidential human source provided the following information and then listed 4 separate details. Photographs of vehicles and persons were included in the draft. UC1 testified that he forwarded this report to his handler, Detective Ladusser. At 9:43 a.m., UC1 arrived at the station and met with Constable Senior. The discussion at the station was captured on device 1. UC1 looked over the draft and provided suggestions to Constable Senior. As Constable Senior provided names and addresses to UC1, he created a flow chart in order to be able to follow the information. Constable Senior then had to leave the station. UC1 indicated that he would continue to work on the report while Constable Senior was gone. UC1 stated, okay, well, we'll meet up back here and just clean it up and then go through your other one. What I'm going to suggest is we do one separate one for mom and do one separate for the girl. UC1 did leave the station while Constable Senior was out. When they both returned to the station, they continued to work on the report together. UC1 testified that Constable Senior was typing and he was sitting right beside him in a chair reviewing what was being typed. The following excerpts of the conversation are relevant. So keep in mind, Constable Senior has been depending on UC1 all through this for guidance as to how to interact with confidential and human sources, guidance as to what to do in these situations. And UC1 at this point is watching him screw up. And in fact, is encouraging him to go forward and never saying, hey, you know, this isn't how we do it, which is what a proper partner should be doing. You know, a proper partner here would be saying, buddy, you can't do this. And, you know, if he goes ahead and does it anyway, that's something else. But when he's being encouraged that he's got to go forward, like, why haven't you filed that report? And they aren't telling him, hey, you're doing this wrong. That kind of says something. It's kind of this encouragement. But the info, when does it come to you? When did you become aware of it? So we can spread the timeline. December of 2017. I wouldn't know because I was unclear. Yeah, but that's my point. If I say December 17 in the intel report, if it gets, this won't be disclosed. Okay. What's going to happen is probably they'll act on it and there'll be a search warrant with a tearaway source information. So basically the source information doesn't end up going to anybody else that's confidential. Here's the problem. I feel effing bad because she's got kids, man, like young kids. This is going to F that shit up because she's in a custody battle. Buddy, I'm just saying, you got young kids. I know, but this is another, right. I get what you're saying, but just, I know the kids, like they're adorable. Like I know them so well. It will tear them apart. I don't mind this way. It's whatever. But it is whatever. But it's part and parcel, right? So here there's more signs. Like he's saying, is this the right thing to do? Am I maybe, is this a bad idea? Of course, here's the thing. If he didn't know these people, nobody would really stop. I mean, they enforce drug prosecutions against people with kids all the time. Something to think about is that lots of them have young kids. He feels real bad for this one, but does he feel bad about all the other ones that he doesn't know? Maybe, something maybe to think about. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of secret squirrel ways you can track people down. Effing run them down and do an effing pip. That's what I'm saying, so I don't know how to effing find out who's related to who. And did you not check the RO of that vehicle? Did anyone come back to it? Any domestic issues? That's what you do. I have it pulled up right here. Look, unless I did it wrong. Yeah, I ran her. Yeah. All came up as this is her phone, her car stuff. Go to refresh, top bar, or top bar, far right. Refresh, no right. Yeah, like when I ran her, it's like nothing, like she's clean, she's got nothing, unless you want to run her. And so it would appear that they then did another search and UC1 was pulling up hits on Ms. Wafer. UC1 explained in his testimony that a PIP was a way to query a license plate outside of the jurisdiction on a police information portal. So PIP, PIP. The conversation continued. I don't know if they say PIP or PIP. This is from outside my jurisdiction, so the slang is a little unfamiliar to me, but regardless. So Richard Sr. advised the CHS, I don't need to put a name in there, do I? UC1, no, it's just write what you see. Write like what you smell. You say half pound, I don't know, she could have had half. He says, I don't need to put a name in there, do I? And UC1 says, no, it's just so. We'll see what not putting a name gets him later. Okay, she didn't say how much, but CHS is seeing 4 pounds. I've seen a pound of varying products, like sample products. Effing very specific, because that shows the reliability of the source. See what I'm saying? Oh, Richard Sr. says, I guess I'm changing my number, thanks. Yeah, maybe it's not it's not like we'll talk about effing the anonymity of the source. Richard Sr. says, yeah. UC1 explained that Constable Sr. was writing into the body of the report, and he understood that Constable Sr. was wondering whether to include the name of the source. According to UC1 at this time, there was no plan about the name of the source. It was all information that was coming from Constable Sr. The conversation continued, except it's also fairly clear that Constable Sr. was wanting to leave this anonymous. He didn't, he's going to, I have to put the name in here. Yeah, they're not talking about it because he wants him to submit the report. So how is this not, I don't see how this is not going to blow back. She's smart. She's going to figure it out. She's stupid as fuck. She's not going to have any knowledge of this. Okay. Because you're going to hit it and go right to the effing thing after she effing tripped my wife and figured it's me. She knew the effing hammer was coming. Just a matter of time. So again, he's a little, dubious, but it's clear that he wants to stay out of it. It's clear that he doesn't want to be identified in all of this. So we're going to have to protect you. I see you have recent in this. He says ... How many other people would know about this? About what? Saturday, 11th of August, over at, was there anybody at the house, Mother? UC1 testified that the more people that knew the information, the less likely the probability of it coming back to Constable Sr., which was why he asked Constable Sr. how many people knew the information. Also kind of suggesting to Constable Sr. that he can, deflect to someone else. Just before Constable Sr. left to go to court, he told UC1 that he knew a guy named Mike, also known as Lips, that was running scared from the YRP, and that this person was involved in cocaine and ketamine. Again, the question is, why do you know a guy like this? Lips told Constable Sr. that he believed the police were watching him. Lips described Constable Jasroop Baines to a T. Constable Sr. then left the station to attend to other duties, and UC1 indicated that he would continue to work on the report while he was gone. So I'm not sure what this means. That's kind of an unusual sentence. Does that mean that it's actually referring to the cop? I hope not. I hope I'm misunderstanding that. As for the intelligence report, UC1 stated that his objectives were to make sure it was complete, thorough, and sent out. UC1 agreed that there was nothing wrong with doing background checks in the context of this report, as it appeared to be legitimate information being investigated. UC1 stated that he believed he ran Sherry Wafer and also checked her on social media. He used police sources to do a background. When he left that day, UC1 testified that he understood that the information would be attributed to Constable Senior. I'm not sure why he understood that, because Constable Senior has been saying kind of the opposite all the way through, that he wants to remain anonymous. So skipping ahead, Richard Sr. thinks his wife is being followed. So skipping along a little bit here. On August 17th, 2018, the following text message exchange took place in the late morning, early afternoon, between UC1 and Constable Senior. Hey, I thought about it last night and all day this morning. F it, let's burn them all. Let's do your way, scorched earth. Which, again, he's attributing to UC1's way, not his way. This is let's do it your way, my buddy, my partner who's been giving me all this advice. UC1, yes, mercenary. Straight up. Your boy just called me, your butt, I suspect that was probably a typo of your boy just called me. Henry, I gotta call him back. So Henry sent a text to Constable Senior, which stated, gonna be in town Sunday afternoon. Let's meet for drinks, brother. And they say, sounds good. Again, Henry is this guy who's supposedly providing him with high-level information that's leading him to busts. But Henry is also supposedly a sort of mid-level drug dealer type. So drinks with Henry. He wants to go for wings. Let's do this. So they're trying to sort of deal with this source here. So on August 20th, 2018, at 11:41 a.m., Henry reached out to Constable Senior saying, let's meet for drinks tonight after 8, working on something real big. The two exchanged messages arranging to meet. Constable Senior suggested Milestones. However, Henry suggested Club Pro, an adult entertainment club. Constable Senior stated, can't go there, brother. That place is under watch. They're in whiskey, like OPP and RCMP watch. Constable Senior then suggested that Henry go to a club after they meet and suggested Cafe Atlantis. Constable Senior again suggested that their meeting take place at Milestones and perhaps an adult entertainment club another time. In cross-examination, Henry stated that he suggested an adult entertainment club in order to further his credibility and cover story, in that he liked to discuss business, including illicit activities, in such places. It's also something that gets Constable Senior into some trouble if he's found there, so this is part of how you sort of try to turn somebody if you're trying to get them to engage in bad actions, is you kind of lure them into small breaches. But here, Constable Senior is resisting this request to go to a strip club and instead is insisting that they go to Milestones. So during the meeting at Milestones, while Constable Senior and Henry were in conversation at 9:15, UC1 left the restaurant for a brief time, stating that he had to go meet someone. He, in fact, met his handler, who gave him $1,000 to present the illusion that he met someone who provided him with money, which, of course, is exactly what he's doing. He's meeting his handler, who's providing him with money. When he returned to the restaurant, he put his wallet on the table with the money visible. The objective of this was to pique Constable Senior's interest as to what he was involved in. UC1 confirmed that, up to this point, he had not been giving any information about Constable Senior taking government money inappropriately. According to UC1, his actions in putting the money on the table were to build trust with Constable Senior, to show him that he might be involved in criminal activity and that he was a dirty cop. At the table in the restaurant, Henry said that he would have further information for them shortly. Also, Henry advised that he was having trouble getting an address associated with a license plate that would lead him to a storage locker that he was interested in. UC1 and Constable Senior traveled back to the station together. So, skipping ahead a little bit here, on August 21, 10:14 a.m., Constable Senior sent the intelligence report, 5 pages, and an appendix, 5 pages, relating to Sherry Wafer and her family to Detective Sergeant Doug Bedford by email, copying UC1. The email stated, here's some information you might be interested in a drug trafficking family. Please also see Appendix A for brother. The intelligence report attached was significantly different from the draft on August 16, 2018. It is of note that the background section was no longer attributed specifically to a confidential human source in the way it was in the draft. However, the report did make reference to observations made by a confidential human source at various times, and otherwise simply set out the information as factual narrative. UC1 stated that he authored the appendix. So not only was this submitted with Constable Senior having done some writing on it, It was also, UC1 did some writing on it as well. Detective Sergeant Bedford sends an email where he says, thanks for this information once again. You guys are doing some great work. And it slipped my attention, and I wanted to determine if you've submitted the forms for your confidential human source. If not, please complete the attached forms and send it back. This latest information you sent, is it from the same source or a different one? If it's a separate source, then please complete a form for the new source or a single-use report if you aren't planning on using that person again. So now that he's submitted it, he's being told, now we need the documentation on who your source is and, where this is coming from. So, yeah. They also say, I'm looking to arrange some payouts on the information your confidential human source has provided to date. Can you please get these back to me by the end of the day or tomorrow at the latest so I can move this along? So they're saying we want to start paying this source. Constable Senior sent a text message to UC1 as follows. Sorry for bothering you on your day off, but Bedford wants YRP 256 and 257 filled out. Not sure about how to fill out my information. Call me. Thanks. There is no response from UC1. So he says basically, I'm being asked for these forms. What do I do? Help. I submitted it with no name. I don't want to put my name down. What do I do? And there's no response from UC1. And this is because he testified there was a direction from his handler not to respond and to let it play out. At 1:51 p.m., UC1 called Constable Senior. Constable Senior told him that Detective Sergeant Bedford was requesting the 256 and 257 forms on the confidential human source information and that he did not know how to fill it out. UC1 stated that he told Constable Senior that he could fill out the forms for Henry and that Constable Senior could fill out the forms for the Sherry Wafer information. The conversation ended. So you see, they've already kind of got him to make a very big mistake. And when he's saying, help, what do I do? They're not helping. It's just like, nah, you are screwed, buddy. So we're just going to see how far you screw this up. This is a real jerk thing to do when you think about it. They've really put him into a difficult situation here. Continuing on here, later on August 22nd, 2018, Detective Sergeant Bedford responded to Constable Senior's email and stated, I'm sorting out payments for a number of files and want to ensure your confidential human source gets paid before I go away. Please ensure I get those forms before 1600 today, as I require them to process the payment. So now they're putting a time limit on him. He's under time pressure as well. He can't just take some time to think about this. And, even if you think about UC1, if UC1 was a dirty cop, he'd probably be saying, listen, here's help with how you get out of this problem. Here's how you solve this tricky problem that you've got. But instead, what they're doing is, they're just leaving him here to struggle. So at 3:48, Constable Senior sent an email to Detective Sergeant Bedford, which stated in part as follows. Sorry for the late return. I answered the form to the best I could. If you need more clarification, I can contact the confidential human source for more information. Attached to the email was, so at 3:48 p.m., he's right up against the 1600 hours time limit when he's sending this in. So he's leaving it to the last second, basically. Attached to the email was Form YRP 256, Confidential Human Source Introduction Report, dated August 22nd, in relation to Henry Wong. Constable Senior also attached and sent Form YRP 257, Confidential Information Report, dated August 22nd, 2018, in relation to the Sherry Wafer information. YRP 257 indicated that this was a single-use confidential human source and that Constable Senior was the CHS handler and UC1 was the witness officer. Further, it indicated that the location of the meeting was 8700 McCowan Road and that it was a scheduled meeting. Fields 8 to 12, being the name, date of birth, address, and telephone number of the informant, were left blank. The report was signed by RS. At 3:57 p.m., Detective Sergeant Bedford responded to Constable Senior's email and stated, you didn't name the confidential human source on the 257. Can you fill it in and send it back before you go? The rest is sufficient for payment. So, we need a name, man. So on August 23rd, 2018, the objective of UC1 was to ensure that Constable Senior sent the completed YRP 257 form to Detective Sergeant Bedford. Having gotten him into this situation, they now want to make sure he gets this form in. So there was a breakfast meeting where UC1, Constable Senior, and others were present. UC1 gave an excuse to leave as he had to meet Detective Salia and Detective De Placido for a briefing in relation to another scenario that would involve Michael Vigliotti and Pine Valley Sports Cafe. So you can see here that they're really working on getting him kind of ensnared in all of this. This is a fairly in-depth effort to kind of build a trap and walk him into it. So with respect to the Sherry Way for information, Detective Sergeant Bedford stated to Constable Senior, I'm still awaiting the name of your one-time source on the YRP 257 you sent yesterday. Please ensure that I get that by day's end today. You'll see I didn't do that underlying. That underlying is from the email, and the exclamation mark is from the email. So they're basically saying, now, buddy, we need this information. And in the same email, they said that they've arranged a $1,000 payment for Henry Wong. Now, there's been no indication that Mr. Wong has asked for money at this point, but they want to put some money on this table. They want to ensure that some money is moving around. So Constable Senior and UC1 exchanged some text messages between 1:28:58 and 1:47 p.m. as follows. RS, what do I put the 526 for informant info? Not using my name. Lol. I just picked up $1,000 in notebook. Okay, cool. So he asks, what do I do here? And he says, I got the money, but he doesn't answer the question of what he does here. He's very much just leaving that to him. He knows he's trapped here. Constable Senior and UC1 met back at 5 Corps. UC1 had picked up the CHS notebook and $1,000 and gave both to Constable Senior. UC1 advised Constable Senior to make arrangements to pay Henry. Constable Senior asked about the name to put on the YRP 257 form for the way for information, and he had the form on the screen at the time he asked. UC1 stated that they should talk outside, and they went to the lunchroom to have a conversation. Constable Senior asked what name he should put down as the source. Help! What do I do? I've been asking, you said I could, do this anonymously. How do I do this? Now they're asking me for a name. It's submitted. I'm trapped. What do I do? UC1 told him that he did not know. Of course he knows. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do here, but he's just not helping because he doesn't want Constable Senior to make the right decision here. He wants him to make the wrong decision. Constable Senior stated that he would not want to use his own name. UC1 stated that if he wanted to come clean, he should use his own name. Constable Senior stated, no way, are you crazy? Constable Senior suggested that he could use lips. Constable Senior asked UC1 for names and pressed him to find him a name. They brainstormed for a bit. Constable Senior told UC1 to look for names, and UC1 searched on his phone. Now, of course, UC1 at this point does say, hey, maybe you should come clean, but it doesn't sound like he really presses the point. And certainly UC1 kind of already knew that he was getting him into a place that he didn't want to be. So he's doing this a little late. UC1 then suggested using the name of someone up north. Constable Senior then stated that he knew a name he could use, a shithead. UC1 stated, whatever you decide, I am good with. UC1 asked Constable Senior about paying Henry on Friday, to which Constable Senior said that Henry was not available on Friday, but he would make arrangements for payment. UC1 then filled out the YRP 480 confidential human source payment form to compensate Henry and left the station shortly after. UC1 agreed that Constable Senior did not wish to be named as the source of the Sherry Way for information and had said that explicitly. UC1 also agreed that a police officer cannot be a confidential human source. UC1 agreed that he wanted Constable Senior to send up the forms completed. That was the objective. According to UC1, Constable Senior had a choice whether to send the forms or not. But of course, if he doesn't, he's going to be told, you need to send the forms, you must send the forms, that's what he's being told. And all of this is, again, part of a major operation here. I mean, it's clear that Constable Senior is making some mistakes here, but it's also clear that the mistakes here are kind of intentional forced errors. He should have known better, but it's also very clear that Constable Senior was very inexperienced with this sort of thing. He doesn't know what he can and can't do. If he'd been told right at the outset, listen, buddy, if you send this report in, you got to put your name on it, probably none of this would have happened. Or if even UC1 just hadn't been sort of pushing him every time he says, I'm kind of wanting to back out. If UC1 had just been like, okay, cool, that probably would have ended it. So this is a complicated situation. I can't say, that Constable Senior is clothed in innocence here by any stretch. He's clearly making some very big mistakes. He's clearly doing some wrong here. But it's more complicated than that. As I said when I started on, part one, I kind of expected that I'd go in here and just be thinking, oh yeah, we've clearly got this terrible cop and he's such a bad dude. And, yay, we got this guy. And instead I'm like, would he have made these mistakes if UC1 wasn't sitting in the car with him? If any other cop was his partner, would he have made these same mistakes? Or is this just the product of 9 weeks of grinding him down, trying to push him in these directions? So on August 23rd, 2018 at 4 p.m., Constable Senior sent an email to Detective Sergeant Bedford stating, here's YRP 257 completed with the one-time CHS name. A confidential information report dated August 22nd, 2018 was attached with fields 8, 10, and 12 now completed. The informant's name in field 8 was provided as David Broadhead. Field 9, informant's DOB was left blank. Field 10, informant's address was filled in with 241 London Drive. The cell number was provided in field 12. UC1 testified that he never saw this email and had no involvement in putting the name David Broadhead on the form. So it looks like that was something that Constable Senior may have come up all on his own. Constable Senior sent another text to UC1 at 4:41 p.m. and the following exchange took place. Call me or reach out via text. We need to chat. UC1, did we put the name? Did we put the name? UC1 knows he's not on the hook for this. UC1 is in the clear no matter what happens. So did we put the name? Yeah. Richard Senior, H wants to meet tomorrow because he's leaving town to China next week. Thought you said we had one. I put a name and sent it. All good. Oh. WTF, Raj. Dude, I don't want to be holding on to this cash until he gets back into town. He says, lol. And Richard says, shut up. I will spend it tomorrow night. He says, ha ha ha. We're going to meet him. Boats and hoes. That too. Lol. So make yourself available for 10 to 10:30 p.m. Thought you had plans. God damn it. Saturday night. Oh, okay. So confused. Richard Sr. Me too. I am stressed. Why? Welcome to my world. Bro, if we gotta meet him next week, we can. Richard Sr. He's gone next week to China. UC1, don't fuck up home shit. Richard Sr. I'm not planning to, but I don't want to be responsible for this cash. He's been given $1,000 that he's now riding along with. He's saying, this has got to go to our source. I don't want to be carrying it up. So UC1, lock it up. This is the world. Lock it in your desk. Richard Sr. says, no key. I don't know. Secure it. Richard Sr. says, fuck it. New Gucci shoes for me. I'll get him a $10 gift card from Starbucks. UC1, wrap it in a condom and shove it up your ass. You know it's safe there. Lol. And Richard Sr. says, yeah, but then you will go looking for it. I'm waiting back to see if he agrees to Saturday. So UC1 agreed that Constable Sr. was not authorized to handle money for the confidential human source. So he's saying he doesn't want the money. He's saying he doesn't want to handle it. He doesn't want to do anything. And UC1 is insisting that he keep the money. And, Richard Sr. wants nothing to do with it. He wants to get rid of it because he's saying, I don't like this temptation. I don't, they're joking about he's going to spend it, but he's saying like, I don't want this. If UC1 was acting in the role of a proper police officer, he would have said, I will handle the money or I'll, whatever else. So on August 25th, 2018, UC1 and Constable Senior shared some text messages about the meeting with Henry, which was to occur at Cafe Atlantis at 9:30 or 10 p.m. However, as the text messages were occurring, UC1 received instructions that he was to have Constable Senior think he was going to participate in the meeting with Henry, but then he was to cancel at the last minute. The objective was to allow for rapport between Constable Senior and Henry, and the payment of money to Henry. And also, now you just want to vanish when this guy who doesn't know what he's doing and needs help figuring out the rules for every step, you just want him to handle it alone. See if he screws it up. That seems a little unfair to me. And normally it's been indicated in this file previously that the proper procedure is that there be two citizens there at any of these transactions. You know, the officer and a witness to make sure that they're, you know, not getting manipulated, not getting corrupted. You want 2 cops there so that you can prevent sort of that kind of manipulation. So UC1 canceling at the last minute basically means that, you know, Constable Senior should have been saying, hey, we gotta go, not I gotta go, we gotta go. Or else, you know, whatever UC1 has, I mean, it's hard to think of things that are more important than an ongoing undercover / confidential human source thing, you know. So find another solution, get a babysitter, whatever it takes, you know, on this, like that's supposed to be a priority thing. But again, if they can't, he should be saying, we both have to leave, not trying to leave Constable Senior with the source. They're intentionally putting him into a place where he can be manipulated, where he can be, you know, where things can go wrong. So 9:53 p.m., UC1 received a telephone call from Constable Senior, who asked him about the YRP 480 receipt form, and specifically whether Henry had to sign first. UC1 said Henry had to sign to acknowledge payment. Constable Senior stated that Henry was already at the location. 11:03 p.m., UC1 texted Constable Senior, I'm fucked, I'm not going to make it, we'll chat in person. There was no response that night from Constable Senior. Just after 11 p.m., Henry and Constable Senior exchanged some text messages. Constable Senior asked Henry to meet in the parking lot to do some business. Henry requested that he come in for a drink first. There was some back and forth about this, but ultimately Henry exited Cafe Atlantis, came to the parking lot, and met Constable Senior in his truck. So once again, they're trying to get him into this strip club, to get him into some trouble. But he says, no, come on out to the truck. Henry then understood that the business that Constable Senior referred to was to pay him, and to have him sign the payment form to acknowledge receipt of the money. Henry sat in the front passenger seat. In the middle console area was the one-page payment receipt form. In the cup holder on the right side were a bunch of brown bills, $100 denominations. Constable Senior asked Henry to sign, print his name, and take the money. Constable Senior stated, brother, this is just the way they work. They want it kind of like you gave the information. Just say thank you, appreciate it, here is compensation. Henry indicated that he was insulted and did not need the money, stating, a note is like fucking, it's not even a sneeze, man. I make that in minutes. You know how much coke and fent I bring into this country a month? I went back and forth between the two. Constable Senior explained to Henry that he could refuse. Ultimately, Henry agreed to sign. Constable Senior stated, you can go buy some ladies some drinks. Henry took the money in his right hand and put it in his left shirt pocket. They then exited the vehicle. Henry continued to express how he was insulted. Constable Senior stated, you could have refused and done, but hey, let's put it this way, that money could put one of these nice girls through college, could pay for her books. Constable Senior also suggested that he could give it to charity. Constable Senior explained, because they want to say, hey, you've done this, brother. If you didn't want it, I could put refuse. I can hand it back to them. The form Henry signed was located at page 85 of ASF2. So they wanted to see if Constable Senior would keep this money. And he does not. He insists, you know, but they have Henry saying, I don't want this money. Like, stop giving me money. I would think that if this was a normal source, they would just say, hey, we're not going to keep paying this guy if he doesn't want the money. If all he wants to do is just give us the information, we'll take the information. But, you know, we're not going to force money on a guy where it's actually potentially undermining our relationship with the source. Keep in mind, Constable Senior, this source is the best thing that's ever happened to him. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened to him. This is getting him the big busts that are going to make his career. So his relationship with this source is very important to him. It's very critical. So once we have it where he's basically being told, you have to give this guy this money, even though the guy hates it, we're creating another situation of tension in Constable Senior's life. Keep in mind as well, at this point, his life is entirely basically being run by everyone around him is involved in this very lengthy operation to try to get him to do wrong. And they haven't had a whole lot of luck here. They've had a little bit so far with getting him to put the wrong name on that, but that's not what they want for a 9-week investigation. The more money they spend on this, the more they're going to have pressure to come away from it with something. You know, you don't want to walk away from 9 weeks of work and thousands of dollars spent on this with, oh, wait, turns out we were wrong. Nobody wants to put in, you know, just as Constable Senior's real happy that his personnel file has this big win on it. UC1 wants his own big win on his personnel file, and he wants a real big win. So there's all these dynamics going on. So Constable Senior and Henry went into Cafe Atlantis, ordered drinks, and spoke to some dancers. Henry stated that he was still working on that thing. It's going to be big. Got lockers. That's going to be really good for both of us. So Constable Senior should not be in there. Henry then talked about going away for a week or so. Henry stated, that thing I'm working on for you there, that's my priority right now. So, like I said, if I can get that fucker's address, that's going to be really good for both of us. So again, dangling another big win in front of Constable Senior. They went upstairs with dancers for private dances. In cross-examination, Henry agreed that by this point they had been there for some time, had multiple drinks, and the money had been in his pocket. Henry agreed that he had paid for their drinks and dancers. After the private dances, they were seated in an open area. Henry was seated in a corner with a table beside him. Henry took the money, put it on the table, and told Constable Senior to take it and do whatever you want with it. Constable Senior took it and put it back in Henry's left chest pocket. I mean, somebody comes up to you and offers you $1,000 and says, take it. A lot of people would take that money. Constable Senior picks it up and puts it back in Henry's pocket. You know, this is a very clear test of Constable Senior's honesty. And right now, he's passing. I mean, he shouldn't be in the strip club, but he's giving him the money back. Constable Senior told him to give it to the girls. Henry took the money out again and put it on the table. Henry said, do whatever you want with it. Still pushing him. Take the money. Constable Senior then took it with his right hand. Henry turned his head for a short time to scan his surroundings as there were people around, and Henry did not see where Constable Senior put the money. When he turned his head back, it was no longer on the table. Henry said that he had looked away for a full second. In cross-examination, Henry agreed that Constable Senior was not stealing the money from him. Constable Senior and Henry then went to separate booths with dancers. Henry was finished first, exited the club, waited for Constable Senior. Constable Senior came out, they said goodbye, and Constable Senior drove off. This discussion was recorded on the device there. So now Constable Senior has the $1,000. You know, he says no once. Henry insists. He takes the money. So on August 26, 2018, UC1 was on a day off, but received an objective, specifically to see if Constable Senior brought up the payment of $1,000 to Henry, and to make sure that Constable Senior was working on August 27th for another scenario in relation to intelligence reports. They have another idea for how they're going to get him. On August 27th, 2018, Henry was told by his handler that if Constable Senior asked him for steroids, Henry should say he might have connections. Henry did not believe that he had heard any steroid angle prior to this. In cross-examination, Henry confirmed that he was not to suggest to him that he was a steroid dealer before Constable Senior asked. Meanwhile, on August 27, 2018, Detective DePlacido 1507 attended the 5-Corps office and deliberately left behind a zip-up binder/agenda containing a package of intelligence reports, some of which related to Markham and Vaughan area cafes. The cafes were all real locations, and the people listed as associated to the cafes were listed based on intelligence information which was accurate to the best of Detective DePlacido's knowledge. The design of the intelligence reports focused on Danny Iandoli and Mike Vigliotti as per the direction of the officer in charge of Project Hadot. The Pine Valley Cafe was known to intelligence, and there was a suspected affiliation to organized crime. However, Mr. Vigliotti was never a target of any investigation from Detective DePlacido's intelligence unit. This was a stimulation exercise to test the integrity of Constable Senior. Some of the information in the report was arranged in a strategic format to accentuate Mr. Vigliotti in the report. That morning, Detective DePlacido ran into Constable Senior in the parking lot at 5-Corps as Detective DePlacido was leaving, and Constable Senior apologized for missing a briefing he had given. So, again, they're starting up a new project here where they're going to put something in Constable Senior's lap and see what happens. And they're not just going to just leave it there and see what happens. They're going to push, and they're going to push and push. We'll see that as we go. Interactions with Constable Senior that day were recorded on device 1. Constable Senior entered the station. He stated that he had the receipt for Henry's payment and asked whether he needed to scan it and send it off or submit a hard copy. UC1 told him to scan it, attach it, and email it, but also to drop off a hard copy. Shortly after that, Detective De Placido called the office. UC1 picked up the phone, and the call was put on speaker with Constable Senior within earshot. Detective De Placido asked if he left behind his black YRP binder with folders. Constable Senior and UC1 located the binder. Detective De Placido asked them to confirm what was in it. So, don't just find the binder for me, but tell me all of the contents. That's a very unusual thing under the circumstance, because if you left behind a binder full of confidential investigation information, what you would probably actually say is, don't open it, don't touch it, don't even think about it, just give it back to me right away. That's super important, but I don't want you looking at it, because you want to contain this information, not spread it around. So the following exchange took place. It's got like CI information in here. Fucking warrants, fucking this is like gold right here. What are you talking about? MD laughs. It's UC1. I'm going to sell it back to you. Richard Sr. I was going to say, what's it worth? Laughs. UC1. Yeah, I got it. What do you want? MD. What's in it? What's the fold? What the fuck did I leave in there? UC1. No, there's like 4 folders. It's there. There's nothing in it. Just empty fussed folders or... No. It's got like information, intel shit. Do me a favor, buddy. Can you, when the fuck am I going to get back down there? It's a disaster now to get there at 5. Can you hold on to that, buddy, or for me, buddy, or can you guys hold on? Do you mind holding on to that for me? I can't make it down there right now and then have you guys, just, I'll call you in a couple of hours. I'm fucking tied up and I'll give you a shout in a couple of hours and we'll arrange, yeah, so hopefully we can arrange for me to get it all right, buddy. So, please, I want you to make sure you see what's in the contents of this folder. Not just we're leaving it behind to test if you'll look in it, but I want to make sure you see the stuff in it. So UC1 and Constable Senior then went to breakfast, taking the binder containing the documents with them. As they were leaving the station, Constable Senior told UC1 that Henry advised him about the next score, which was supposed to be a big one, including guns and drugs. So Henry is once again offering things, and, we've got this $1,000. Constable Senior's got it. But remember, there was a bit of a weird interaction on that one. So on the way to breakfast, UC1 opened the binder and was going through the documents. UC1 can be heard saying cafe, at which time Constable Senior said, why are you flipping through his shit? Oh, but he's got it redacted, laughing, wow. UC1 can be heard flipping pages. I'm just looking, he came in to talk to you about it. He then stated a name, Mario Sculpa. Constable Senior then brought up lips in the conversation. So, UC1 is making sure he sees the contents because Richard Senior is not looking through it. He's saying, why are you digging through his stuff? But UC1 is making sure that, let me read this to you. Let me show it to you. Let me show that it's okay for me to dig through it. Yeah. So that guy Lips called me over the weekend too. Oh yeah. Because apparently he got stopped, I think, 2 months ago. Yeah. A month ago, July, he got stopped, and it was a license. He got served his Part 3. As he got some fucking juice on him. Yeah. So he's like, calling me up, says, well, this cop says he's going to be at my house for 9 o'clock. He doesn't show up to serve me some documents for my court date. I'm like, well, so if he doesn't show up, then I'm sure he'll try to contact you. He says, what, do I got to sit around for 4 or 5 days waiting for this guy? I said, no, if he finds you, he finds you. He doesn't, he'll just put not served and have the server serve you if you're home. You're home, you're not, it's fine. So UC1, fuck it. Yeah, don't fucking stop your day. You've already fucking wasted a day. Don't stop your day. Yeah, let him find you. Cafe, what's the one named here? Why is these 4 district ones? Because he doesn't. Pine Valley Sports Cafe, so original, eh? They just fucking name it. Luciano Mansur, Mickey. There's such fucking Pine Valley Cafe. So again, he's making sure that Richard Sr. knows what's in there. He doesn't want Richard Sr. to just, give the report back without finding out what's in it. They want to make sure he hears all of this. UC1 continued to read pieces of information from the files on the way to the restaurant. And Constable Senior asks UC1 why he doesn't show up for the meeting, and UC1 makes up an excuse. Also at breakfast, Constable Senior talked about what had happened with Henry at the meeting. Constable Senior stated that Henry was going to provide information on a locker. In relation to the payment to Henry, Constable Senior stated that Henry expressed that this was not what he signed up for in regard to payment. Constable Senior reported to UC1 that he told Henry that he could refuse and he could take the money back, but that Henry eventually took it though. He reported that Henry said that he made more money than this in an hour. Constable Senior stated that he told Henry to use the money to put some girls through college. Now, I've been assuming that Constable Senior took the money at this point, but I know Henry indicated that he looked away. There were other people in the room, so I don't know, necessarily what's going on here, but Constable Senior, let's assume he took the money. He's not mentioning that he's got the money at this point. So he's made a very major error here, and this is it's not theft, but that's not his money. Like, if Henry doesn't want it, that's supposed to go back to the police force. So that's a big sort of deal there. Also at breakfast, there was a discussion about Chinese gear, and gear being steroids. The conversation was as follows. Richard Sr., but yeah, so he's off to China, and so all right, cool. Oh, next time I'll ask him for who, see if he can hook you up some Chinese gear. UC1, he can. You know why UC1 knows he can? Because UC1's the only person who knows who he is. Richard Sr. says, probably I didn't ask him, though. I thought about it, though. UC1, why didn't you ask him? So again, we're trying to encourage this guy to commit offenses. Richard Sr., I thought about it, but I forgot to. But you said that's Chinese or Indian. You said, Richard Sr., the good one, yeah. Richard Sr., everybody gets from China, like you can get it from China. UC1, ... But like the amazing stuff is fucking Russia and India. Yeah, Not do you have an Indian link? All right, then so China it is for you. UC1 testified that he understood Chinese gear to be steroids from China, which is, of course, what that was referring to. At breakfast, Constable Senior also talked about a guy with a sheet that owed him 20 large for a truck power washing company he had invested in. After breakfast, the plan was to return the binder to Detective DePlacido. They drove from Markham to Newmarket, as UC1 had something personal to attend to in Newmarket. On the drive, Constable Senior was driving, and UC1 again opened up the binder and was flipping through the documents, reading things out loud, and engaging Constable Senior in conversation about it. There was a picture on an intelligence report in the folder with the name Mike Bigliotti. Constable Senior pointed to the picture and identified this person as Lips. Constable Senior stated that Lips would flip to be an informant and would be able to provide information on bigger stuff. So again, UC1 is making sure he's seeing all, making sure he's getting all this. But for UC1, does that binder ever get opened? Hard to say. So, and UC1 is clearly reading a binder he's not supposed to be reading here. So, anyway, during the drive, Detective DePlacido called UC1. Constable Senior says, tell him I have his guy if he wants. UC1 then put the phone on speaker, and Constable Senior spoke to Detective DePlacido. The conversation was in part, so, T's a nosy fuck. He went through all your paperwork. He's telling him what happened. Okay, so there's a guy you got, I don't know if you want to talk about it over the phone, but there's a guy you have that you're watching that if you want, I can get you inroads with. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this dude called me the other day. They agreed to talk about it in person. So his response to this isn't, hey, I'm going to help, Lips out. It's, hey, I know this guy. Maybe there's an angle on it. I can help you. So Richard Sr.'s clearly done some stuff here by the findings of fact, or by the sort of factual details here. But he's still trying to help out. As mentioned, this is not sort of an easy, uncomplicated scenario. The UC1 and Constable Senior arrived at a lawyer's office in Newmarket. Constable Senior was left alone in the truck while UC1 went inside for approximately 1 hour. When he returned, UC1 called Detective DePlacido to arrange return of the binder. Detective DePlacido asked him to hold on to it for a couple of days as he had to step out. Of course, they want more time with this. He hasn't done anything wrong with the binder so far, so let's keep pushing. We want to keep this game going. They then drove back to Markham and did traffic enforcement. On the drive, they had some discussion about the payment to Henry and how the payment was determined for information. They also discussed further details of the Sherry wafer information. At 3:53 p.m., UC1 texted Constable Senior, and the conversation went as follows. Bro, can you scan that Riley receipt and send it to Bedford, please? Not now, I can't. I have to grab my kid. I will do it first thing in the a.m. Raj. So at 7:46, first thing in the a.m., he emailed a signed confidential human source payment form for CHS to Detective Sergeant Bedford in an email attachment indicating that he would drop off the original. The attached form indicated I, CHS 5599, acknowledged the receipt of the sum of $1,000. It was purported to be signed by Henry Wong, who also printed his name, and was witnessed by Constable Senior. Also, on August 28, 2018, at 8:58 p.m., Constable Senior telephoned Henry. They spoke for 1 minute. Constable Senior stated that he was calling because he was worried about Henry and wanted to find out about his trip to China. Henry assured Constable Senior that he was fine. He said he was going to provide him with a locker containing dirty guns, in other words, illicit firearms, that evening, so he should keep his phone on. So on the morning of August 29th, 2018, Henry and Constable Senior exchanged some text messages about various adult entertainment clubs. The conversation then went as follows. Focus, storage locker. Meet at FYEO. I'll give you the locker info there. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, but I'm gonna. Lots of dirty hardware. Brother, you're gonna get me divorced, lol. You have the information, you have the locker? This fucker is my biggest rival. This locker is gonna change the landscape in my circles. Which, of course, means this is a big deal. This is gonna be great for your career, right? So I absolutely don't want you to get divorced, my friend. You decide on what you want to do, but I'm coming down Friday and getting me some eye candy at FYEO. Hopefully you'll join me for a sip of some champagne, because when this locker goes down, I'm celebrating early. Lol, cool. I'll do my part to clear the landscape. You have the locker information, yes? Yes, I'll have it by Friday. Okay, on Friday, if you have the information, I will come down. Deal. They then appeared to agree to meet at For Your Eyes Only, so that's the FYEO, for the following evening at 7 p.m. Henry testified that there were two things being discussed. One, information on another locker to be provided to police, and two, information he was working on for his own bust of a locker of one of his biggest rivals, a former protege that he'd referred to in earlier conversations when he stated he was looking for an address. In relation to his own bust, he was looking to take back drugs himself, get rid of the competition, and be the kingpin. Later on August 29th, 2018, UC1 and Constable Senior exchanged some text messages about putting information into the CHS notebook, during which UC1 was providing some guidance. UC1 asked if Constable Senior had returned the binder to Detective de Placido, to which Constable Senior replied that he had not heard from him and had not returned it. Because, of course, every time they try to return it, it's, no, there's, I can't do it right now. You need more time to, maybe do something with it. On August 30th, 2018, just before 6 a.m., Constable Senior texted UC1. Just as an FYI, Henry has information on the new target. He wants to meet later on tonight downtown. Are you available to meet up? He canceled his trip to China and found this information for us. He will be in town tonight and tomorrow night. There was no response for a few hours, and then the following exchange takes place. I'll try to get a sitter. If not, you know what not to do. Why downtown? Ask Mofo to come up. He has another meeting. I figured give and take can't always be on our terms. Raj. If you can make it, cool. If not, don't stress. I keep you advised. Cool. So, I think this is probably a good place to pause here. We'll just pick up back here, because here there's going to be a little bit of a change of pattern. However, what we see going on here is this once again underscores just how much this investigation, everything around him is related now to this investigation. This Detective de Placido is involved in this investigation, is leaving him with things. It appears that his direct superior, who's sending him these fake bust reports saying you've done a great job, is also involved in this investigation. And so all of these random coincidences that, to the officer will appear to be random coincidences, none of them are actually random. his entire life is being organized in this fashion to push him as much as they can into committing some sort of offense. And, think about how that's going to affect you over time, when in fact everything that is going on around you is sort of engineered to this direction. Everyone around you is pushing you, and everyone around you wants you in some fashion. They're trying to get you to commit a crime. How long is somebody going to be able to hold out in the face of that? When you've got this guy who is your main, he's your meal ticket at this point. He's the guy who is actually, running the show. He's the guy who, whenever you're getting these messages saying you've done good work, you're an excellent cop, you're going to get promoted, you're doing all, this is great. All of that is connected to this Henry guy. And his undercover operator partner is specifically sort of engineering situations for him to be tempted. If everyone in your life around you was trying to push you to commit an offense, how long could you hold out? Most of us are never in that situation. Most of us never face that scenario. So I'm really torn here. I mean, I don't want officers who are temptable, but most officers are never going to face this level of temptation and pressure. Things are going to get worse. I will tell you that right now. You see that things are starting to go bad. Things are going to get much worse. So let's, stay tuned, because things are going to get real exciting in this guy's life. And, we'll see how far they can push this. But I personally think of stories where, as an example, where women have been pushed into prostitution, as an example. And when you've got, everybody in her life trying to engineer that, how long do people hold out? When you've got, this is a major effort. This is tens of thousands of dollars. I'm torn here. I really am. I thought I'd be going into this one thinking that they just find this guy and, he'd be doing all these bad things. But the question I always ask myself is, would these bad things have happened if they didn't completely engineer his life to try to make them happen? Is that fair? Is that reasonable? I don't think I want him being a police officer if he's temptable. And, I think we need a high standard for police officers, but I don't know if I think it's fair for him to go to jail for a potentially very lengthy period for this. Let me know what you think. As I said, this is going to continue to get worse. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters. You guys do make this possible. I'm trying to play around with some arts and crafts stuff to hopefully do an interesting video on some unusual stuff, but I don't want to spoil that too much. Anyway, thank you once again for watching. Thanking my Patreon supporters here at the $50 level: Sir Daniel Wicks of Alberta, Jason Elliott, Canada's National Firearms Association, North Central Process Service, Kyle Martin, Jean-Guy Toussaint, Ivo Nedev, CCFR, BCAMF.org, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited and Marc-Olivier Damour. And at the $20 level, Matt Ward, Mark Whittington, Dale Nesbitt, and Cameron Johnson, and Andrew Elsich, Adam Meester, as well as a number of you in the $10 level who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you once again for watching. This is a fairly wild story. I know this is long, but there is a too long didn't read version available on lots of news articles. You can look at those, but I really think that this is one of these stories that deserves digging into and deserves a full understanding. So let me know if you think I'm being too wordy and you don't want to hear this and you want me to move on to other topics. Let me know that too, but this to me is a fun one. Anyway, thank you once again. I hope this has armed you with knowledge, and see you next time. Part 3 hopefully coming out soon.